is yours, Kat.
Hi, so I am Kat from NAMI Colorado Springs. I am the LGBTQIA2+ and peer programs manager there. Just so we're all on the same page, I am not a therapist, I am not a clinician, I am a peer. So I show up in the space of mental health from the idea that I walk with mental health conditions, and so we can walk together and support each other, which is kind of the full basis of what NAMI is. So today we're going to be talking about how do we slay the day even when the day sucks. So what we're going to cover is how are you, and then we're going to talk a little bit more about, like, no really, how are you, because when we walk into rooms and we say, you know, how are you, we often say fine and don't really do that self-evaluation. And then we're going to talk about control, emotions, wellness, and self-care, and then we'll cover some resources that may be available if you need a little bit more. So how are we? How are we doing? Okay. I like that. Pretty good? Pretty standard answers.
I'm thankful that I'm still alive. I survived that massive wave of hate crimes where my property was stolen, my signature was forged on a bunch of documents, and people tried to assassinate me.
Oh my goodness.
Mostly people involved in anti-government work because my family works. I suffer from complex post-traumatic stress disorder, as well as acute medical conditions. I've just lost my mother and my aunt, just left me extremely vulnerable. The rest of my family is going to be a spouse right over. So,
I'm glad you're still with us.
that being said, it's a lot to carry on my shoulders, but I've been trying to focus forward on my goals and trying to bring good changes into the world by going into leadership and diplomacy. I'm starting up my own business, basically building a brand new life for the dust at this point. Planning on going to university. My next 10 years basically down the journal. It's just about taking the initiative to get there. I think I'm struggling lately is resources, which I can help and all of them stripped away from me because people wanted to play a little joke. So that's mostly what brought me to Colorado. So I just like I can't be around that.
I appreciate you sharing. So we got some of the normal responses that we get, like fine, good, hanging in there. So on the next one, let's think about it a little bit more. When we ask ourselves and when other people ask us, like, how are you doing? Often we get that canned response. Good, doing fine, doing all right. And it's an opportunity to stop and check in with yourself. So physical wellness, take a moment, check in with your body. Start at the head, go all the way to the toes. Does anything hurt? Are you too hot? Are you too cold? How is your body feeling? How is your body showing up today? And so that can be a moment to check in with, how am I doing? My neck's kind of stiff. I might be carrying some stress in there. Or I'm doing really well. I'm comfortable. The AC in here is phenomenal compared to out under the tents. We're doing great. The other side of that, if we do the next one, sorry, you're good.
I just messed it up. I'm so sorry.
No worries. We're flexible.
Seriously.
It's the mental side of things, the emotional side of things. So, how am I doing? How am I feeling in this moment? Is that feeling equating to anything else? So, if I find that, you know, wow, my hands are kind of shaky when I do my physical check. Why might my hands be shaking? Is it because I'm nervous? Is it because I'm anxious? Is it because I'm cold? And so, take a moment and really do that check-in with your emotional self. I think I'm actually doing pretty well today. I'm feeling good, feeling hopeful. But there's been a lot of days recently, especially recently, where I haven't had that moment. And so when we think about, when we do these checks, how do we sort through it? How do we feel the things that we feel? So let's talk about control. When we do these check-ins with ourselves, we might find, I'm too cold, okay? I might be able to turn up the heat, that's in my control. Or I may not have that power. And so when we do our physical check-ins, when we do our emotional check-ins, sometimes we can come up with something that's like, really pissed off today. And I'm pissed off because I was treated poorly by somebody walking down the street. How am I gonna address that emotion? Or am I just gonna shove it down and let it fester until the next thing comes and I shove it down and I let it fester? So when we're talking about checking in with ourselves and then identifying what's going on, what's not going on, it can be really helpful to think of, okay, can I identify what I can control in this moment? Can I identify what I can't control in this moment? If something is wrong, is there something I can fix, or is there something that I have to accept? So, we work a lot with circles of control. In this moment, what can I control? What can't I control? And so, let's take the instance of, I'm pretty upset because I was walking down the street and I felt really upset because somebody said something pretty mean to me. I can't control that that person said something to me or perceived me a certain way. What can I control in that moment?
How you feel?
I can control how I feel. I can control me. I can control how I react. I can control whether I'm going to let that tank my entire day. Am I going to sit in this moment and say, wow, that really sucked, and then address it and move on? Or am I going to walk down the street and now I'm going to be a jerk to the person who I see next? So there are things in situations that even feel out of our control that we can control. And so when we're going through those hard things and finding out, wow, today's really sucky. Got out of bed and I was just in a crap mood. I'm gonna do a check-in with myself. Something in my body hurt. Am I comfortable? Do I need to eat? Do I need something to drink? Is there things that I can take care of in my physical well-being? Nope, I'm gonna check in now with my emotions. Just in a crappy mood, which sometimes happens. Okay, what can I control with this? I can control how I'm going to show up, I can control how I'm going to react, and I can control me. So we spend a lot of time in this circle of control when we're looking at how can we help ourselves and how can we make days that even suck a little bit better and work through them. So let's talk about emotions. Emotions can be little, or they can be really, really big. And sometimes, especially as adults, we can decide that we're not going to deal with that emotion. I'm feeling hurt, I'm feeling pain, and I don't want to feel that today. So I'm just going to put this in my mason jar that lives right in here. I'm going to put that lid on and I'm going to let it sit. And then when the next time something comes up and I go, oh, that kind of hurt, I'm going to shove that in there too. And what ends up happening is it becomes a pressure cooker. And it's just going to explode, and then it's going to feel completely out of control and lost, and it's going to be really difficult to slay that day. So when we're talking about emotions, how do we work through emotions, do we think? Yeah.
I studied a little bit of nutrition when I was with the emotions that we carry are I noticed when I drink teas, like liquid cleansing teas, it flushes out those toxins and helps alleviate the symptoms.
Yeah, everything is very well connected. There's been a lot of studies done on the brain and gut connection. And so, like, when I'm feeling really anxious, I can get gastrointestinal things, and I'm like, ooh, maybe I need to go sit and take care of myself for a little while.
Self-massage is little, just meditation, yoga, just getting out in nature helps a lot.
Yep,
Doing therapeutic activities such as writing, artwork.
all of those things can be really, really helpful. And when you're looking at all of those things you can do to work through an emotion, I think the first thing you have to do is name the emotion. Because it can feel this constant intake, and then it can get in here and it's like, I'm pissed, but why am I pissed? Well, I'm pissed because I'm scared. Why am I scared? And you have to dig down a little bit and get to that place where you can name the emotion that you're feeling. And then you have to give yourself permission to sit with it, which is uncomfortable.
Then you have to release it.
Yep. And it's not about fixing our emotions. When we embrace those and we feel those emotions, they're not something there to fix. It's something there to embrace and then work through. If you need to work through it, or it can just be there. Acknowledge it, feel it, and then go out and go hiking. Do something to try and change the environment that's causing that emotion. And so it's just that quick, thanks for coming to my TED Talk on how we deal with the hard feelings. And then we have to look at wellness, like you were saying, our overall wellness. So we often talk about mental health, we often talk about mental wellness, we talk about physical wellness, but the reality is the dimensions of wellness include both emotional, physical, spiritual, so occupational work. The yellow one that's hard to read is intellectual, environmental, so am I safe in my environment? And then financial, social, and it creates this big wheel. And we have to look at all 8 of these dimensions for overall wellness because they are all so incredibly intertwined. And so when we're looking at our dimensions of wellness, we can sometimes identify, like, you know, I'm really struggling, and I've been struggling for a couple weeks with this emotion. Is it coming from one of these things? Is there something lacking? Is there something that I can dig into further and be able to take care of? And we'll find that because people are people and we all show up very differently and authentically, I might need more social wellness than somebody else who, you know, really focuses in on that emotional wellness. And so it's not all equal pies, it's a little misnomer here, but we do have to be able to touch on all of them to have that whole wellness for both emotional and physical well-being. So a fun little thing that I do with folks can be just this idea of identifying what is self-care. And how can we identify different self-care? Because self-care became, I don't know, I'd like to say 5 years ago, but it was definitely before that, but it was really popular while we were going through the COVID era. Everyone was saying, take care of yourself, take care of yourself. And it became this kind of tag word that people were using without ever really digging into it. Like, what is self-care? It's really basic. It's I'm showing up for myself, right? And I'm taking care of what I need to fill whatever cup is feeling low today. It doesn't have to be, I'm gonna go out and I'm gonna spend $100 in a spa day. Can it be? Absolutely. But it can also be, right? It can also be, I'm going to go into my bathroom and I'm gonna lock the door so that my teenagers can't talk to me for 2 minutes. And I'm gonna sit in my own just quiet because my introvert needs to recharge. And so when we're looking at self-care, I like to try and use a grid like this where I can identify 3 different quadrants where I can care for myself and come up with a plan on how I'm gonna do that prior to when I need it. Because when my cup is empty, when I'm already feeling drained, when I'm already tired, or I'm already just not getting it done for myself, I'm not gonna come up with how I'm gonna recharge. I'm gonna sit in, I'm really tired and I'm gonna go to bed and not take care of me. And so having that plan in advance of this is how I can recharge my cup. And doing the trial and error with it. A lot of people find recharging in meditation. I don't meditate well, I'm not good at it. And so I blow bubbles, and that's like deep breathing reset for me. And so, you know, as you're exploring how am I gonna care for myself, how am I gonna recharge, how am I gonna take care of my different quadrants of well-being, do some trial and error with, how do I feel before I do this activity, and how do I feel after I do this activity? Because someone may tell me that, you know, going out and hiking is really, really good and it's gonna recharge my cup. But I may not feel the same way as somebody else after doing that. And so really just explore it and find what fills your cup and have ways to do that. Another way that we can really work to change our viewpoints after sitting with some hard emotions is having gratitude. I like to think that I'm a pretty grateful person. And then I sit down and I try to fill out a gratitude log of the different things that I'm grateful for. And it turns out that sometimes, especially when I'm struggling or I'm not feeling well, finding gratitude is hard. And so having your gratitude list, or I have a jar now, where when I'm feeling grateful, I put things in the jar. And when I'm feeling like I can't find something to be grateful for, or I can't find something to be hopeful for, I can pull something out of the gratitude jar to remind me that, you know, today I'm celebrating the fact that I have 100% success record in making it through the hard days. It's my gratitude moment. Right? That's huge, but we forget that. And so having something that we can refer to when we're forgetting that, you know, things can be better, or there's hope that things will get better, can be really, really helpful. Yeah.
That used to be something I struggled with a lot. So I just say after 3 years, I think something says 3, 2. I wake up every day just glad that I woke up, which is a good change, another good change. Because I used to, when I was younger,
there were some difficult times where it was like, I don't feel this.
There were definitely times where I considered taking my own life to fight against those intrusive thoughts. I went to the hospital a couple of times and built a survival plan, how to mitigate different solutions to different scenarios. Definitely helped me build a lot of resilience to what goes on in our external world.
Yeah. And that's sometimes, you know, finding the gratitude in even the hard moments and the difficult moments can be really helpful. What do we got next? Beautiful. So we talked a little bit, I just was talking without switching
Okay.
slides. We're doing great.
Okay, keep going.
Yeah, we can do one more.
Yes, ma'am.
So how do we monitor our wellness? Some of us, myself specifically, I can forget to monitor my wellness when things feel good. I can forget to monitor my wellness when I'm really, really busy, and sometimes I embrace the glorification of busy so that I don't have to check in on my wellness. And so it's really important that we're doing these self-check-ins and that we're just stopping and going, how am I actually doing? Kind of like, you know, what we did earlier where it was, how are you doing? And I said, okay, I'm gonna tell myself I'm okay too. I have that instant response, I'm okay. No, really, how am I doing? And doing that deep dive into how am I feeling? How am I showing up today? How are things going for me? And then using the things that we've put into place to be able to adjust if we need to. Sometimes self-check-ins don't get it done for me. I will lie to myself through and through and through. I'm good, I'm good, I'm good, I'm good, and then I will be crashing and burning. And so having check-ins with our chosen people can be really, really beneficial too. My wife and I have an agreement where if I'm not recognizing that maybe I'm not doing well, she has an index card in my handwriting that says, check yourself. Because if she would look at me and say, you need to check yourself, I'm gonna escalate, I'm gonna be angry, I'm no longer happy. But when she hands me a card that's in my handwriting, oh, I gave this to you, I gave you this permission when I was doing well, and maybe I do need to stop and check in with myself. And so making sure that you have places where you can just check in and monitor how you're doing before you're at the point where there's no denying, or it's really obvious, or you're so drained that it's gonna take a lot more to get back up. So when we think about those 8 dimensions of wellness, we want to reflect on how we've been feeling lately. Maybe something that we'd like to see improve. Maybe something that we can celebrate that we're doing well, because we forget to do that too. One of the images that I often talk about with folks is we look at ladders that go 12 feet up and we see that their rungs are each a foot apart. I'm a short person with short little legs. Climbing that's going to be really difficult for me. But when I see the 12-foot ladder and they're actually 6 inches apart, those little steps are what matters. So we have to remember to celebrate those little steps and be able to focus in on the fact that today I get to show up as a different person than I was a year ago, or tomorrow I get to show up as a better person than I was yesterday. Because those little steps are what gets us to our long-term goals. And then when you utilize your worksheet, just identify, like, how do I fill my cup? What's gonna work for me, or is this an idea I can try? And then come back to it. Don't use it as like, you know, something to level out your table so it doesn't wobble. And check in. Are these coping skills working for me? Are these things that fill my cup working for me, or do I need to adjust and try something different? So then there's barriers, right? We would be remiss to talk about self-care, caring for ourselves and our wellness without looking at what might stop me from doing this. So if I say, you know, my self-care for this week is going to be to go out and go for a hike because I'm an introvert and that really recharges me and I feel safe in nature. I need to also look at what might prevent me from doing that. Well, I could get called into work. Well, the weather might be crappy. Well, I might get up in the morning and I might decide, not feeling it. I'm just going to stay here today and enjoy being cranky and mad. And so really looking at what could prevent me from taking care of myself, and then coming up with ways to overcome those barriers or alternative solutions that wouldn't have the same barrier. It's a lot easier for me to come up with negatives than it is for me to come up with positives. I can come up with everything that will go wrong without coming up with a single solution just by the top of my head. Do you feel that?
Tell you what helps me. I'll write down all of the negative things
Yeah. That's a great solution. When I come up with like obstacles, I do a lot of the same things. So like, I will look at, I want to go hiking this weekend. Well, what are the things that could go wrong? Well, the weather could be crappy. Or, you know, I may not want to do this. And then I will reverse brainstorm the negatives. So I'm going to come up with the most outlandish thing that's going to keep me from being able to go hiking. I'm going to wake up and I'm not going to be able to find my hiking bag. Well, how can I switch that to a positive? I'm going to put my hiking bag by the door so that it's right there. And so if you're one of those people like me that's like, I can come up with the negatives every time, sometimes starting with that negative and then flipping it to the positive can be your way to overcome your barrier. And then it's important to remember that you don't have to face the sucky things alone. You don't have to be alone. And it's really important to choose the people that choose you. And when you're looking at, are these people who choose me that I want to choose, it's important to really dig into that choose me. Am I showing up and being in a relationship because it makes me feel not alone, or am I doing it because it fills my cup? Is this person a champion for me, or are they somebody who just drains me? And so really figuring out who are your chosen people, who is your family by choice, who's going to show up for you the same way you're going to show up for them. And you also don't have to be alone in all of, no, you were good, that was right. You had it. And then if your chosen people are just not meeting the needs and you're feeling like you need something more, talk some resources. So there are options out there that can provide you with peer support, clinical support, safe places to just be and not have the pressure of looking over your shoulder and am I safe in this moment? Am I safe in the world that I'm living in today? And so NAMI Colorado Springs, who I work with, we offer 2 queer specific groups. We have an LGBTQIA2+ group called QConnect, and we also offer our TAG group, which is transgender and gender expansive group. We do those weekly and they are cost free. There is no insurance billing, anything like that. It's all grant funded because we want it to be really accessible. And those groups are a place where folks come together as peers. We train folks to facilitate healthy conversations, even through hard things, and we get to be together.
That's right. So it's a free kind of group talk, sort of, and there's a professional there leading the conversation.
2 professionals, so that if things get escalated and someone needs one-on-one support, they can go and have that. And so it's a really just time to be real and authentic, and it's very much set in the present because it's not therapy. So we talk about how's your week going? What was good? What wasn't good? Has anybody else experienced that? How are you working with it? And we're able to support each other through similar experiences and feelings. There's 2 other, well, there's more than 2, but I highly recommend 2 other peer organizations. There's Springs Recovery Connection, who offers a lot of different groups, and they work pretty heavily with folks who are working on recovery from substance use disorder, and they're also cost-free. And then Hard Beauty does both the peer support and the clinical services, and they have grant funding and can go insurance depending on what somebody needs. And so those can be really good places to meet people. And the nice thing about the groups too is you can find your chosen people sometimes in those spaces, and get ideas on where you can find other safe spaces in the community to build and grow your network. We also have PRISM, which is our resource, or I guess it's a community center. It's downtown. They operate Tuesday through Friday with varying hours between 1 and 8 p.m. And that can be a place to go in, relax. They have Kelly's Closet. They have a lavender library. You can also get resources there. They also offer free counseling on Thursdays if you're looking for clinical support. And then for our younger folks, 13 to 24 Inside Out Youth Services can be a really safe place for programming as well for folks. And NAMI's main number is also a resource and referral line. So if you need something specific, even if it's not mental health related, so housing, food, just somebody to have a listening ear, folks can call our main line, and we have subject matter experts that can help navigate systems. The thing I really like about that is there can be, instead of handing somebody a resource list that's like 5 pages long, we'll usually ask the questions. What are you looking for? Is there cultural considerations? Is there demographic considerations? What's your insurance? Things like that, and offer 3 options. so that you have a narrower list that's not so overwhelming. And then if those don't work out for you, give us a call back. It's always an open door. And then the last thing I have is kind of what we call a community resource series that we put together. And each one is 4 pages, so they're stacked kind of goofy if you want to grab them. And it goes into self-care, community care, and some other ways that we can respond if we're not doing well and just care for ourselves and our community in those moments. And then there's QR codes for specific resources if folks are looking for things, because picking up the phone and calling can also be a struggle. Questions, concerns, emotional outbursts?
Definitely got to find. So I struggle with developmental disability, CPTSD, and low vision. Currently homeless and transitioning, trying to find idealistically a group housing and that will help me get to doctor's appointments and kind of find the resources and writers I need to get back into college and
Yeah.
get back on my feet with starting my business, kind of adjusting to the new environment, new atmosphere.
Absolutely. Let me give you my card, and you can reach out. We can talk next week about kind of what you're looking for, and I might be able to put you in touch with some people. Prior to working with NAMI, I spent 10 years in housing and homelessness in the community, so I'm pretty well connected, and we can probably get you some resources. Well, thanks for spending time with me, even with this scary heading of mental health, which usually runs people out of the room.
I grew up in a dysfunctional family and my needs was part of every day.
I feel ya. I was raised in foster care, so I learned a lot of don'ts and had to figure out the do's when I grew up.